coming. I appreciate everything we just heard. The only thing I'd like to kind of redirect a bit is we don't see ourselves in opposition to 12-step at all. We're very much in line with 12-step. We have a lot of people who've had a lot of success in the 12 steps come over and use this as a add-on to the recovery. In fact, our founder, Noah, is a active 12-stepper and still has his home group with AA. So for us, we feel like it's very compatible, and whatever it takes for you to get clean or sober or free from your process addictions, we're in big support of it. So we're just another tool that could be in your tool belt. So you're gonna hear a lot today, and Rob and I are gonna try to not bore you too much, but I'd like to make sure that you guys take away 3 things from what Rob and I are gonna say. And the first one is that Refuge Recovery offers a Buddhist-oriented path to a freedom from addictions of all kind. So that's one. It's a Buddhist-oriented path to freedom from addiction of all kind. The 2 one is it is a recovery program that works. So it's great if you are finding success in other paths, but if this one speaks to you, this really does work. And the 3rd one is that there are open meetings every day here in the St. Louis region that you are invited to. So again, it's a Buddhist-oriented path, it works, and it's accessible to you and your loved ones. Just curious in the room, how many people here, if you'll just do a raise of hands, have either suffered from addiction or have a loved one or know someone who suffered from addiction? Yeah, it's extremely important. It's a crisis right now. So what I'm going to do is Rob's going to talk a little bit about the core path that we offer, and then I'll talk a little bit about how our program has worked and some evidence of that, and then I'll also share about the meetings.
I'm Rob, I'm an addict. Hi. Technically we do have 12 steps to 4 Noble Truths in the Eightfold Path. So, anyway, first takeaway, we offer a Buddhist-oriented path to freedom from addiction. So I have a bunch of stuff that I took off the website and just kind of a description of what Refuge Recovery is. Refuge Recovery, I'm just going to read it to you. Refuge Recovery is a Buddhist-oriented path of freedom from addiction, a practice, a process, a set of tools, a treatment, and a path to healing addiction and the suffering caused by addiction. A systematic approach to training our hearts and minds to see clearly and to respond wisely to our lives with understanding and non-harming. I guess the Buddhist-oriented part, Noah, the teacher that wrote the book, likes to use a lot of rebellion talk against the stream, Dharma punks. So in the intro to the book, he refers to the Buddha as Sid, just to kind of help separate any preconceived notions about what this practice is for folks that come to our meetings. He describes Sid as a radical psychologist and a spiritual revolutionary. He referred to the root cause of suffering as uncontrollable thirst or repetitive craving. This thirst tends to arise in relation to pleasure, but it may also arise as a craving for unpleasant experiences to go away, or as an addiction to people, places, and things, or experiences. This is the same thirst of the alcoholic, the same craving as the addict, and the same attachment as the codependent. So the Buddhist-oriented path, using the traditional formulation, Refuge Recovery. The Refuge Recovery Addiction Program consists of the 4 Noble Truths in the Eightfold Path. 8 factors of the path are to be developed, experienced, and sustained. This is not a linear path, which spoke to me. So they know kind of, I don't want to say adjust the 4 Noble Truths, but to be, first Noble Truth of Refuge Recovery, as we call it, as addiction creates suffering. And we take stock of all the suffering we have experienced and caused as addicts. Second Noble Truth is that the cause of addiction is repetitive craving. third noble truth is that recovery is possible. And fourth noble truth is that the path is available. These are the truths of Refuge Recovery as laid out in our program. And the path being the Eightfold Path. So that's really the Buddhist oriented. We have a book and we get into the reality of cause and effect, embracing the reality that all of our actions have consequences. Yeah, I want to pass it on to Jim.
Thanks, Rob. So, while we do have eightfolds, it's not a linear thing. So we see recovery to addiction as a wheel, you know, with all the eightfold paths as spokes in the wheel. And you don't start with the first one. You start with meditation. For us, that's the key to everything. We have a daily practice, your own practice. And then, you know, throughout our lives, that wheel becomes unbalanced. And for the addict, sometimes that wheel is very unbalanced and out of whack. So for us as a group, we try to practice and discuss where we're at with each of the steps of the Eightfold Path, or the steps with each of the points. This is a recovery program that works. So the first takeaway was it's Buddhist oriented. The second takeaway is this works. We recognize it's a non-theistic approach to a spiritual practice. We don't ask that anyone believe in anything. You can come in and we have a lot of atheists that come to us. We only ask that you trust the process and do the hard work it takes to get clean and sober. So it's non-theistic, and I know there's different discussions about that, but for us, I don't really care your belief system. You're allowed to believe whatever you believe. I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but here is a process and set of tools for you. The programs have thousands of people get and stay clean and sober. So there's a real strong demand for this program globally. Last June, so 9 months ago, there were 260 meetings in globally. So we're in both Europe and Asia. As of today, there are 509 to show you how much it's growing. So it's doubled in less than 9 months. If I look 2 years ago, I believe there were 54 meetings. So there's a strong demand for what this program has to offer. And it's a very welcome and open program. Here in St. Louis, the St. Louis Drug Court now recognizes our program as a valid support for recovery. Rob actually holds a meeting down at the Carnahan Court building downtown. Melanie, raise your hand if you're uncomfortable. She's been holding meetings out at Bridgeway to introduce people early in recovery to Refuge Recovery. And then, you know, again, we don't ask you to believe anything, but for me, my recovery story, I started using drugs. My first joint was at a Boy Scout trip when I was in 6th grade. By 15, I was a full-blown addict. And for me, I used to use my ability to function in society as a litmus test for my addiction. So I stayed a full-blown addict for 30 years. I was a high-level corporate executive, and I was doing cocaine every morning and every night. I needed it to get through the day, and I still didn't recognize that I was an addict. Finally, I just had enough of this shit, and I quit my job. And again, I never attributed it to drugs and alcohol. It's like, fuck this, I don't want to work here anymore, and I quit. And so I decided, because I started practicing meditation about a decade before that, which you would think that would have been enough to realize I was an addict, but it didn't. So I decided I was going to go and sit for 2 weeks in Thailand, up in Chiang Rai, at a place called New Life. And for those of you that know the region, it is right outside the Golden Triangle, and Tom Rabak is up there, which helps a lot of addicts get clean globally. It's a common place for people around the world to go and get off of heroin. But there's a few communities up there that are mindfulness based that they kind of say they're for addiction and alcohol, but they say, you know, we handle people that come in for stress or burnout. So I'm like, yeah, I'm burnt out, not stressed, so I'll go there. but their one rule is you can't do drugs 2 weeks before you go there. And I'm like, well, I'm not an addict, so that won't be a problem. So 2 weeks before, I've got the calendar, I measure the day, I'm not doing drugs from this point forward. So I go in and they do an intake. And she goes, so what drugs have you done in the last 2 weeks? I'm like, you told me I couldn't do any drugs in the last 2 weeks. She goes, okay, let's go 2 weeks before that. And I go, well, before that, it was cocaine, marijuana, LSD. Let me go through the list, opiates. And she looked at me and she goes, and you don't think you're an addict? And I'm like, no, I'm not an addict. She goes, Jim, that's not normal. She goes, so my view of reality had shifted. And I was in full-blown addiction. And again, I use my litmus test as my ability to get along in the world. So my coach there and my teacher, again, approached me very softly and gently. And over time, he introduced me to the concept of Refuge Recovery. Dave Smith from Dharma Punks had just come through there and talked to everybody about it. And I met Dave while I was over in Thailand. And I did the first inventory, and it was at that point that I finally realized how much my addiction had created suffering in me and suffering in the people I loved. So I used the program to get clean, and I've stayed clean. When I got here in St. Louis, there was one meeting, and it started out as a book club for at-risk people. It was primarily LGBTQA people. And that was 2 years ago, so that was June of 2016. And since then, well, with that group, I started to learn how to live a normal life in recovery in Buddhism. But since then, my Sangha here has helped me stay clean and sober, and love me enough through the times where I'm falling short of our principles and goals to help me get back on my feet and redirect me. So today we have, again, there is a meeting every day. That's our point number 3. We have meetings all over St. Louis, downtown, South St. Louis, Central County and Webster Groves, and West County. We've expanded our group into hospitals and institutions, and we're open to everyone without regard to income, race, religion, LGBTQA, or your addiction type. We have people in our groups that are overeaters. We have people in our group that are sex addicts. We have people in our group that are recovering heroin addicts, cocaine addicts, or just general party addicts, whatever you want to call it. But we're open for everyone, and that all are welcome. We have regular social activities. Thank you, Jess and Mel. Thanks for getting that going. So Christmas parties, all the good stuff that we should have in a nice social environment. We're also starting events now for people who identify as women. So again, thanks Jess and Maya for that. And our meetings follow similar formats wherever you're at on the globe. So almost half of our meetings, well, first I want to say there are no Dharma instructors. So they are peer-led. We are a non-authoritative presence. There's no leaders. Secretaries are expected to rotate every 6 months. So there is the idea that over time, this is a peer-led community, and we take care of each other. If any leaders are in the room and want to raise their hands, I'd just like to take an opportunity to thank everyone for everything they've been doing. So I know some of us do that, so thank you guys. But our meetings consist of a guided meditation, and that's usually over half our meeting. We do a reading of some sort, and then we simply share. We close every meeting with a dedication of merit. If you want to start a meeting, you can just go to the website of the book, but we ask that you might start attending first and see where you can help there. Currently, the leaders or the meeting leaders kind of spread thin. So we're trying to look for people to help replace them before expanding, but we know there are some areas we'd like to get into, North St. Louis, St. Charles, but it's tough. But in closing for us, I'd like to say, no one can recover for you, and we take refuge in the fact that we all have the power to do so. Again, no one can recover for you. You have to do that hard work yourself. And for those of you who don't know this, addiction is not your fault. And we believe that with every bone in our body. Addicts, we've just developed a strategy for living that doesn't work for us or the people around us anymore. So again, there are 3 things to remember about us. One, we offer a Buddhist-oriented path to recovery of addictions from all kinds. Two, it's a program that works for drugs, alcohol, and processes. And three, we have a meeting every day. And we look forward to you and or someone you love coming to one of our meetings. In the back of the room, we have our flyers. So feel free to take one. And if we could everybody be willing to do a dedication of merit to us, with us? So just take a moment. We dedicate the merits of our practice to all suffering beings. May everyone be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May everyone enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. Keep sitting, keep breathing, and keep smiling.